record on this computer. That's a good start. And I have 10:01, so welcome, welcome. All right, we have an agenda. It got sent out last night sometime, I don't know, in the late in the day, so hopefully everybody got to see that. Same kind of agenda, a typical agenda that we have sent out before. We'll go through a warm-up activity. We'll take a look at our Moodle and see if there's any questions that are out there burning, fixed, things that don't make sense. We'll do a little bit of a team building and a little bit of skill building. And then we actually have time for sharing today. So a shout out already to Hannah and to Ingrid, who have offered to share who they are, the progress on their projects. So that's really awesome. Then there's a confirmation at the end of the, well, that's kind of funny. At the end of the agenda, which doesn't have the right date, it's supposed to be missing one, critical number. You've got that in your agenda, and it's on your.
What's it say?
It says 3-2.
3-2.
26. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Audio, so there's like some funny audio going on. So I don't know if somebody might have need to mute or something.
Is it me?
I don't think so. I just don't know. I want to check and make sure it's not coming from this end. But 3/26 will be our next meeting, and Robin Blakely Armitage is going to be joining us, and she's going to help us, walk through. You may remember her early video recording that was on, in one of the topic areas about mapping and some of the tools to help you better understand the demographics in your community, to think about growing your audience. So she's going to be joining us for a little bit of skill building at our next meeting. So anything else that should be added to the agenda? Clarifications? No? All good? Okay. All right. So Kim, you want to do a little bit of a warm-up activity with folks?
Sure. I am going on vacation starting Friday. So I thought it might be a good time to talk about something that all of you are looking forward to in the next week or two. Could be work, could be fun, but sometimes it's good to start a little kind of gray, little snowy day here anyways, with a little bit of what are you looking forward to in the next week or two? That sound like a fair question?
Sounds good.
All right. So I guess we could just go by, we don't all have the same list in chat, or do we?
Yeah, I don't think so. The participant
Okay.
list, if you want to, I don't know if you want to use
Do you have a
anything
list?
else.
So I could go.
I'll start because I have to leave soon.
Got one. Okay, Heidi,
Or,
get away.
so my boyfriend lives in North Carolina, so I haven't seen him in a month, and I have 9 more days, and I'm going to be going to North Carolina to see him.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Excellent.
So that's my looking forward to.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Heidi.
I'll go.
Okay.
My son's birthday, it's not quite 2 weeks away, but it's April 1st. So
Oh, that's fantastic. That means the whole week is birthday celebration, right?
yeah, he's pretty much already ready to go.
Thanks, Nicole. Anybody else want to go next? I have Craig Brown on the top of the list, alphabetically.
Sure, I don't mind going. If you can't hear me well, it's because I have a new computer and, oh, you can? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I guess I'm looking forward to the second half of the 23rd because Ag Literacy Week will be done. And I feel like I'll have 2 things off my plate so I can breathe again. A little bit more time for my kids. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, part of the fun of program planning, I think, is looking forward to the culmination of it all.
Right.
Behind us. That's great. Thanks, Craig. I've got Leland alphabetically.
Leland's going to be joining us a little late.
bit later. How about Janice? Something you're looking forward to in the next week or so?
Yep, I just had to unmute, had to find my button. Tomorrow I have a hemp meeting planned, and it looks like we're going to have a really big turnout. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good. I
All
hope
the-
you have a great turnout.
All the interesting people that come out for hemp.
Yes, yeah. A little different audience for you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Fantastic. Good. It's good to grow our audiences for sure. Thanks, Janice. I have Sarah Ficken on the list next.
So the thing that I'm most looking forward to is that we are going to have our trusses builder for our heifer barn by the end of this week, which means we'll be able to start construction or deconstruction, I guess, and then reconstruction the beginning of next. So I'm excited to have animals back in a barn instead of on my front lawn and in the parlor.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Good luck with that. So
That's
rebuilding the
awesome.
heifer barn. Fantastic. Good for getting through all that.
Right.
Yeah. I've got, how about Ingrid? Is Ingrid there? Morning, Ingrid.
Good morning.
Forward to by any chance?
What?
You said something you're looking forward to by any chance?
So I sit on the steering committee for Junior Leadership Orange, a leadership program for 8th graders here in Orange County. That's kind of the subset of the adult program. And tomorrow we do our justice session, which is actually an entire day in courtrooms with 8th graders. We see family court, Supreme Court, and criminal court. So it's always a really cool day. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Some real life stuff. That's great to get.
Yeah.
Love it. How about Carrie? Is Carrie on? Yep. Carrie Marshner?
She is. She's here in my office on my audio.
Hi.
Oh, I was wondering who was sitting over your shoulder. It looks like us.
I am looking forward. I've been away for 2 weeks, so I'm looking forward to getting unburied.
Oh, yes.
Mountain.
It'll happen.
I hope so. And I'm also hoping within a few weeks we at least will have snowdrops.
Snowdrop the plant?
Yeah, still snowing and cold.
Yes, it is. It'll come. Spring is in the air, I'm convinced.
Those are my two things.
Thanks, Carrie. It'll happen. Barbara, how are you?
I'll pick up on the snowdrops idea. I am looking forward to within 2 weeks, we don't have ice and snow all over our farm. So it'll be to chores, and we have a new puppy, and he doesn't love snow yet. I mean, he's okay with it, but we'll be able to debounce him a lot easier when it's a little warmer and no snow.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, spring. Leave it to all of you to look forward to plants. Definitely spring for sure. I love it. Congrats on the new puppy. And it looks like Jemmy's with us also.
Yep.
Something you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the end of year-end close.
Yes.
I bet you are.
Happy New Year to Jemmy. How's that?
Yes.
You can do this. I'm sure you can.
Right. So for those of you who haven't been involved in that, our executive directors and folks in Jimmy's position are wrapping up, making sure that all their paperwork is in, crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure they're in good standing so that they can move on to other things that feel a little more like what we do in extension. Cheers to all of our folks in those executive roles who really have a lot of administrative logistics to handle. It's a lot. So yeah, I agree with you, Jemmy.
And Jemmy, this will be it'll be better next year.
Right.
Once you've gone through it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I've got Michelle on the list next.
Hey everybody. I am headed up to Albany next week. We're kicking off 2 big new projects. So I will be hanging out with the State Education Department, and I'm excited because they have a brand new convening model. It's called Leading by Convening, and we're going to try it out in a 2-day project kickoff. So it's a new way to hopefully work together as a team and not be quite so bureaucratic.
Great.
So I've got high hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, definitely share how that goes.
We'll
I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it will be well.
Great. So many exciting things happening.
I
I just
know.
love this. Who's next on the list? Kristen. Kristen, did you want to share? Looks like you're muted. Share something you're looking forward to.
We can go back to her.
All right, we'll go back to Kristen. Shayna, always looking forward to something.
Good morning. I guess to kind of go off Nicole's birthday item, this is a milestone birthday for me this week. And, you know, it also happens to end on a Sunday, which happens to be St. Patrick's Day. So I'm looking forward to a brunch and fun to celebrate on St. Patrick's Day.
And you'd probably like if the group all sang to you also, right?
Yeah.
Can we get that on recording? She's looking at no singing, I'm sorry. If she wasn't here, we'd be able to do that. Happy birthday, Shanna. That's exciting.
Thank you.
And happy St. Patrick's Day, too.
Yes, it is exciting.
Let's see. Hannah's next on my list.
I'll jump on the bandwagon of looking forward to flowers and sunshine and warmer temperatures. And then on a personal note, we're also planning a major home renovation project, and I'm hoping that sometime in the next couple of weeks we might start to have more of a clear timeline of when we might be ripping our house and our lives apart. So it's a long process, and we're getting close to clarity. So I'm hoping it'll come.
One of the few times we look forward to ripping our lives apart.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be worth it.
It'll be worth it.
Absolutely.
That's
well, it also
great.
helps you to, you know, that's been my experience anyway. Helps you
What
to
was that movement and sound?
clear a few things out, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's great. Very exciting.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Kristen.
Okay, so I'm excited. So actually my husband's birthday is on March 17th to this weekend. So we're gonna get together with his parents. Another exciting thing is I'm 14 weeks pregnant. So
what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I just started telling people. So I'm gonna have the next ultrasound on Monday, so I get to see. It's a little girl. So excited.
How exciting! Yep. We're tearing up here.
That's awesome.
That's thrilling. Thanks for sharing.
All right.
That might just top it all off. There's a lot of thrilling things going. But
there are.
That's a
right?
big one.
Yeah. My pepper seeds don't have anything to compare to any of you. Those were my exciting things.
You're looking forward to pepper seeds?
I planted pepper seeds.
You can't follow Kristen with that.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
That's great. Is Mary Kate on also? Yep, Mary Kate. Oh, Kristen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Really?
Well, I don't have anything very exciting.
Not that one, lady.
I guess my exciting thing happened last weekend. I finished my training for ski patrol out at Greek Peak. So it'd been like every single Sunday since December. So this weekend I get to take Sunday off and maybe catch up on some house stuff.
That's great. Not to mention the slopes even more in the future.
Right. That's really great.
Yeah, that is fun. Yeah. Oh, good excuse to get outside for sure. Did I miss anybody? I think that's my list. Thank you all for sharing.
Yes.
So many exciting things.
Okay. So where
is this too high for you?
It's all good. I haven't figured out how to. Whoops! I can make my chair go lower, but it really doesn't go any higher. It's all good. All right.
Together, Carmichael.
I know. Some days it's really hard. I wanted to just check in a little bit. Last time we met, we talked about implementation process. I shared a process that I use to kind of keep on track. I know Craig and Janice both were at the training for project management, which is another strategy or look at moving things forward and implementation planning and keeping everybody on track. I wanted to ask if any of you had time to reflect on, think about. I've seen some activity. A few of you have gotten through topic 7, which is implementation planning in the Moodle. So just I want to ask you to reflect just a little bit about your, something that you're at least intending to put into practice to help you move things forward, keep everybody on the same track, communicate widely and broadly and regularly so that things get finished and complete with evaluations before you can move on. So Anyone have anything that you want to add to that?
I guess I can go. It's Barb. So yesterday I was just getting started on topic 7, and I've been thinking in the last couple of weeks, you know, we have new programs all the time, but we also have ones like ag literacy and Sundays in the Farm that we do year after year after year. And somehow, even though like mentally you're like, I've done this, you know, 4 times or 5 times, I still would like to have one of those sheets, a template for each year, so I remember exactly what I need to bring. I don't have to rely on my memory, which is failing. And so I started looking for a template sheet on the internet, like that would be perfect for doing these programmings, and I just didn't find it. It seemed like it was more for like IT projects or, you know, sort of like office-based projects. Does anybody have something before then I started to like, well, heck, I'll just make my own. But, you know, project name, how many people do you need? How many hours is it? What's the date? What are the materials? That kind of whole like program planning. If anybody has something like that that works, I'd really appreciate it.
That sounds great. I wonder if we can put it in, we could probably put it right in Box. If somebody sends something to everybody, I will gather it and put it in Box. I know I have something, I think somebody started to share something before I started talking.
I was just going to say, Barbara, I have something we use for our summer meals efforts that kind of is exactly that. Like, what do you need? Check off the boxes. What time? Right. What date do you need it by? When's media going out? All that kind of stuff. So some of the topics may align, some may not, but I can share it. Do you want it to be put in Box, Celeste, in a certain file, or
just if you send it to me, I can put it in announcements and everybody, you know, send it out to everybody. How about that?
Yeah, that would be great, because that sounds more like what I need. And because it seemed like the templates that Microsoft had and on the internet were more for like big like development projects, not like Sundays at the Farm where you need a specific number of nylon stockings.
That template might be hard to come by.
It's harder to find. I have to buy them now.
That sounds good. Anybody else have anything to share? And welcome, Leland.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I had a phone call with a volunteer, so.
We all understand. It's okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we were talking about any kind of implementation strategies you might be thinking about or reflecting about after our last conversation, or you know, working on the topic that relates to implementation planning. So anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just say, I was going to talk a little bit about this later on during the share portion, but like Barb, I also was kind of looking around for templates for an implementation plan that kind of got at the types of needs that I'm seeing for our projects. And when I didn't find one that seemed exactly right, I just sort of started putting one together, but it's definitely, I don't think it's quite exactly what I need, but it's on the way. But I just want to say that it's been really helpful to me to break things down task by task. I think it's kind of helping me out of my loop of getting stuck in lofty objectives and all of the many goals of our program, and to just make it seem more tangible and more feasible to accomplish.
That sounds great.
Oh, yeah.
Celeste, I had something that I wanted to share out. You know, I've been really inspired by the fact that we've been kind of working together in our 4-H group, if you will, and sort of, you know, the benefits that have been coming out of that for me, just in terms of thinking about, you know, support and program sharing. And, you know, I just keep kind of coming back to the same, you know, we're all doing the same basic template of, you know, these primary programs that run in almost every county. Yet we're all in these places where we're recreating the wheel every single time that we do them. And right now, as a system, particularly in 4-H, I don't know about the other program areas, but in 4-H, we're having huge turnover. Like, people are leaving the system and we have new faces coming in like never before. And I've been thinking about how, as a system-wide effort, we could kind of create some templates that would be beneficial to everybody. And I raised that at our district meeting last week to see, if there was a way that we could kind of get the ball rolling, working in conjunction with association at, doing some of that. And there seemed to be support for it around the table. So our district is going to start putting some templates together that hopefully we can share out at the state meeting. And, maybe it will be something that is embraced by the whole system. I don't know, but I think it really has the potential to be very powerful. And actually, I threw you and Kim out as possibly a source to help us really formalize some of this and get it pushed out to the system once we have some kind of a working model.
No, that sounds great. And Craig had mentioned same thing as we were sitting at the project management workshop. Are you still on there, Craig? Yep. And I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I had written it down thinking, what a great idea. So that may have come out of your small group in some discussion. The only thing that I was stumbling over is, where would that come from? Like, where would it be best adopted? And I think your idea of bringing it out from the district the educators district is probably the best place for it to come from. So way to go.
Yeah. And Ingrid, I'm not sure, you've connected with the professional development group that Alexa was working with, the 4-H professional development group, because I think maybe 2 years ago they were talking about what does a new staff member need to do, and they had some kind of, like, if I recall, sort of go sheets or here's what to do for this.
Was that?
But I'd have to go back and look at that.
Professional development.
It was
though,
professional
right?
development related, but I think it had to do how to pull an event together. But maybe yours is the next step, getting more specific.
Well, and I know at our district meeting, Marilyn Russell shared a document that she had received from Brenda Carpenter that was kind of like for new educators, where there was after 1 month, pay attention to these things. After 6 months, pay attention to these things. After a year, pay attention to these things, kind of a thing. And I said, well, something like that is a great jumping off point too. And that was living in mentoring. But I'm not sure that mentor committee is the right place for it either. I don't know.
Right.
It's a lot of thoughts swirling around in my mind right now too.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, because, I mean, there's the growth and leadership and professional development, but at the end of the day, boots on the ground, you got to get things done. So
yeah,
that's great.
Wonderful that the group
inspired by you guys. So
brings together.
Well, and your discussions.
Your small group too.
I think that the small group. I can't say enough about how pleased I am with the way that things are working in your discussion groups. So, all right, I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see how I did. I can look at, there you go. I'm looking at the Moodle here. I think everybody probably saw the challenge that I put out to everybody to, just trying to move things along. We've kind of gone back and forth in some discussions about deadlines and, how they are really flexible. But I always say, even personally, that deadlines are my friend. You kind of need to put it out there so that it helps you kind of move around and pace yourself. So I put a challenge out there to get through topic 7, which is implementation planning, something that we had talked about on our last call, and something I think that, from what I'm hearing, it feels like your discussions are moving in that direction anyway. So the goal is to get through topic 7 badging by this Thursday. And right, drum roll. Let's see, where's my box? I'll show my,
that's a prop. I'm sorry, I moved it.
It is
in
a
my
prop.
chair.
So there you go. So if we can do that, I have a little something that I'm going to send out to everybody at that point in time. But I don't know how realistic that is or reasonable that is. We have a few people who have reached their goal already, and I check the badging on a regular basis to kind of see how things are progressing. and kind of listen in on the forums. So let me just open
There's
that
a lot
up
of check marks on that.
There are, right? Open that up for a little bit of discussion, and just see if there's anything else that's in there in the Moodle that needs to be addressed. So thoughts, questions, comments. Remember to unmute yourself, Barb Neal. Where you did your?
No, she's yelling at the puppy.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting a delivery of tea. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. So you're looking for feedback on
I'm
the,
looking for feedback. Is that right? Timeline? Anything
topic
else
7
that's
too
going
much?
on in
I would
Moodle that
love
need to
a
know
few
about?
more days because I'm putting on a big conference. Janice is putting on a big workshop. So it'll be, even though I'm close, it'll be tight. Because between this afternoon and Thursday afternoon,
Not a lot of time.
putting on a big conference.
So give me a date. What's reasonable?
Like next Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. What do other people think about that?
I would need a little more time as well. I've got a workshop tomorrow and the next day,
Okay.
and the week after, but yeah.
Create some brain space.
So brain space.
There.
Let's see. Let me open up my calendar here. And what if we said?
How about another week, Celeste?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. How about the 21st?
That would be really helpful.
I think that would be.
Yep, I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Celebration of spring,
Right.
Patrick's Day, and everybody's birthday.
All right. And so I won't be sending you a notebook.
Leland.
Leland.
Leland and Jemmy. There won't be no book this time.
My hope was something a little more fun and inspiring. So 21st, get through topic 7. Ask your group if you need some help with things. Let me know if something feels like obnoxious. That's really, that feedback loop is really helpful for all of us. So anything else in the Moodle that we need to tend to? Anything I've forgotten while you were giving me some things that needed to be adjusted?
Celeste, in topic 7, there's one part that says that there's some samples to look at, and it says go to the URL. And I'm not sure, there's like nothing to click on. So
well,
where are those samples to see?
Well, it looks like I need to add the URL in there.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I'm not very technology savvy, so I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go to look at those.
Yep. No, that's it. Yeah. Always assume that it's not your problem.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that, but
it doesn't hurt to be open to that idea.
Right.
I didn't know if I was missing something there.
Yes. If you see something that's not working, let me know. I will definitely add some resources there, or the link to the resources. So.
Okay, because I didn't know if they were like on the staff site, and I kind of
they would. Right, they would be on the staff site.
Poking around to find them, but I didn't find them.
Okay, no worries.
Celeste, would that be where potential templates for program implementation would be?
Yes. Yeah. We can. There's no reason why we can't put some samples from colleagues. So and just include them there on the. We are updating the staff site.
I went into the box to get them, and I took them out of the box because you had all the documents in there. So, yeah.
Yes, there should be some there, but there really should be some for all staff to see. So, yeah, some happy medium. They're in box and really in your notebook have been the majority of the resources that are in the Moodle. But yeah, no, thank you for bringing this up to both of you. So. All of you. Anything else? Did anybody poke around Rosemary Caffarella's chapter in her book?
I read it yesterday and it was very, very good.
Yeah.
And it was a little scary because I'm putting on a program like that on Thursday. So I was reading it like, ugh, what did I miss? I think I'm okay, but I was like, oh boy, I wish I had looked at this before, but I've done these programs before. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's coming from the chair of the Cornell, former Cornell Department of Education, and it's very thorough, right? Probably much more thorough than
and
most
very
people.
Practical.
But very practical. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm still mourning the loss of having a Department of Education here, and her really good practical boots on the ground guidance for adult education. But all is well. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It's funny because we hear that comment, I wish I would have seen this a long time ago. So that's one of the reasons we have these cohorts and new staff orientation and program development leadership cohort is the idea that we're going to put some things in front of you that you might not have seen otherwise. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna switch gears here. Anything else about Moodle that we need to be mindful of?
So topic 7 by March 21st.
March 21st. Yep.
Get it done so you can go out and play when spring does hit.
Yes. All right. Okay. I'm gonna switch. The next thing we have on the agenda is a team building, but I have to scoot out. Kim is gonna kind of hold the fort down here in a little bit. I have another meeting across campus that I need to shuttle off to. So I have to leave a little bit early, but I'd like to build in a little bit of an opportunity to just introduce Qualtrics. Ingrid was asking about Qualtrics, and we did a little, a little walkthrough. So this is not going to be in depth by any means, but I just want to introduce you to, and when we get to the evaluation section, there is information about using Qualtrics, but just to plant some seeds here. So just by show of hands, and if you have just your, okay, let me see, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute so I can see everybody's face. Who is using Qualtrics now?
You mean true hands in the air?
True hands in the air, right. Okay, so probably about half, and if you don't have your video on, if you can put something in chat, thank you, Jimmy, for doing that. That's helpful. Okay. All right. So Qualtrics is a survey tool that Cornell has a license for. So we have the ability, as an extension, to use Qualtrics and have folks that we can ask questions of when things are working or not working. So to get there, my answer to most things is Google it, right? So if I say Cornell survey, and I just do it this way because I want you to know that even you don't remember a URL sometimes, just know that there are ways to get there. So first thing that pops up is Cornell survey tool, all right?
And it's important to use Cornell there also, so it takes us to that page.
Yes, right. So Cornell and survey, right. Yeah, so in here, you don't have to read all of this blah, 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 although there is information about setting up an account and user support and all of that, but really just click on the login. And I think if you have not, here's my phone in case, oh, no.
You have your phone today?
I've already, yeah, I know. Some days I really struggle. So I opened up Qualtrics. What it opens up is to your project page. So projects are any of the surveys that you have created. So I have a bunch of surveys related to all sorts of things, and you can organize them and put them in folders, right? Creating a survey is fairly easy. So I'm just going to show you a new staff orientation online survey that we launched this week. All right, you can add in some very simple questions, including, these are all the question types here on the right-hand side. So maybe if I make this a little bit, my screen a little bit bigger, does that work for you? So you can see it better?
It does, yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, right. So you can have some descriptive text like you might in the beginning of a survey, and then all different kinds of questions, multiple choice or text entry, Your users can rank things. You can have a matrix, a slider, and then some very interesting ways of adding different kinds of questions. I usually go with the simple, just for a variety of reasons, but even though I like the fun things, it depends on who your users are of the survey. But anyway, lots of different kinds of questions that you can add in, and adding them is as simple as clicking on the plus sign, add a new question, right? Deleting them is as simple as removing the question, clicking on the delete sign, right? When you have completed your survey, you can preview it, if you want to see, what's this going to look like. There's an opportunity to add a banner, something related to your program area. I always use a Cornell Cooperative Extension banner. And then you publish it so that you can make it available. So there's a bunch of, the menu across the top relates to the kinds of things you would do, creating the survey. So somebody mentioned that communications coordinator creates them. That's awesome, but I just encourage you to think about the kinds of things that you can do with a survey and some good survey design, making sure that things are thoughtful, created based on your outcomes that you wanted to see happen. And that your question, you don't have too many questions and the questions are worded properly. Those are things that you certainly would be in your control no matter what. So you can also think about how you're going to distribute it. You can use an anonymous link, you can send it to emails, you can have a QR code, whatever. There's a lot of different ways to distribute your survey. And, and then on the back end, looking at your data is kind of important as well. So you can take a look at what your data looked like, and in reports, you can visualize what your data is all about in a variety of different kinds of graphs. When you have open-ended questions, you can add a visualization like a word cloud. So if there was a lot of responses, you kind of get a sense of, right away, what are people saying? What are people saying about this particular program? And I like to go down to just fewer words, because word cloud is based on how many times a word is repeated in responses. So you would get a good sense of what people were saying about in your qualitative information from your survey. So this is just one tool that's available, and really all I'm going to do right now is plant the seed that this is an option. It's really super, I won't say, on the scale of 1 to 5 in terms of how difficult it is to create these things, I would maybe put it on a 1 being easy, 5 being difficult, maybe a 2. There's a lot of really hefty and difficult things you can do, but I pretty much keep them on the simple. I don't use a lot of surveys that say, use the if-then thinking, just because really, essentially, we just need to evaluate whether or not we're hitting our goals. And the audiences that I'm reaching anyway are, I know who my audience is. If you get a little bit trickier, open-ended audience, really searching out there to assess needs and stuff, you might want to go to, thinking, if you are a youth, then you're going to have this survey. If you are an adult, then you're going to have these questions. But for the most part, if you keep it simple, it's a pretty simple tool to use, and it's really well supported. The other thing that I'll mention really briefly here is that there is a library that goes along with Qualtrics. There's a survey library of your surveys, but there's also a survey library. Where is this now? How come this isn't where it's supposed to be? Oh, I'm not logged in. Oh yeah, I am logged in. Okay, here we go. So where you see your name, where your login is, when you get to the library, you can go to the Qualtrics library, a global library, or you can go to the Cornell University Public Library of Surveys. And there's a bunch of folders in there. You can look at, I think it's all open. You can look at anybody's stuff, but you can see there's a cooperative extension library in there. So in there, you'll see a number of different surveys that most of them were added by me. I put my initials on the end. And there's surveys that I worked with your colleagues across the state to create. Once you get in here, you can, here's a pre-post STEM camp survey. So you can take a look at what the survey looks like. You can save it into your library just by clicking over here, view copy survey, and copy it into your library, and then you can adapt it as needed. So these are a good place to start. Most of them have our old Cornell Cooperative Extension logo on there because these were done a little while ago, so just kind of know that. That might have to be adapted, but it might be a good place to start some questions, you know, if you're not really sure. And some of them are very, very simple, immediate feedback form. Okay, so this was one that from a particular county, then something that they have used to collect feedback. You know, yeah, the name of the program at the top. As a result of this program, what, if anything, are you going to do this year? How motivated are you to try these ideas? My understanding before and after, so it has a pre-post. All right, so there's some simple ideas that you can start with if you don't have a, if you don't know where to begin from. So I see a question from Carrie. Can our non-CCE colleagues access the Qualtrics library? Is there a way to share surveys with them? So non-CCE is in Cornell University or just stakeholders?
Non-CCE is in Cornell University.
Oh, yeah,
NetID?
yeah. It is in, anybody with a NetID has access to Qualtrics, and you can collaborate with them. So
The Cornell Qualtrics, you're saying?
Cornell, Cornell has a license for using Qualtrics. So if I wanted to, like this new staff orientation online, I really should collaborate with my colleague, KFF2, Kimberly F. Fleming, and then she should, you know, have details and be able to view reports and activate and whatever. And you can collaborate with as many colleagues as you want to on a particular project.
You can limit me on what I can do so I don't mess it up, right?
No.
Isn't there a share? I think there's a
Yeah.
Collaborate's a nice kind thing.
Yeah. So just a quick tour right now. I'm happy to do a one-on-one with anybody that has questions or wants some help. And if you're setting up a survey and want somebody to review questions, I do that with extension educators all the time. And when I say that, I would say I would include our on-campus colleagues as well. Okay.
Talk about not recreating the wheel. This is a wonderful tool for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Library aspect,
Right.
especially.
Right. So Ingrid, this kind of goes along with, you know, so you have some standard events across the state for 4-H youth development.
Right.
Why not? Yeah. Okay.
Need a tool like this for program planning. Libraries and
right.
thinking.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to skedaddle off. This is recorded, so I'll get to watch the rest of it a little bit later.
Oh, no, you didn't tell me that part.
Kim is going to remain here, but really good to see everybody today. And I'll look forward to gathering some things to put in our box to share with you. All right.
So you have a team building activity you want us to do and sharing.
Yeah, if that's okay.
And a break.
And a break. In fact, you might want to do that.
Let's do that before 10:45.
Yeah.
So how does that sound? We'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back, do a little stretch if we could, if somebody wants to lead that, and then we'll go on with the team building and then sharing.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good meeting. Thanks. Yeah. I can drive from here, you think?
Yeah.
How long is our break? You're, Kim's talking to me, but she's muted.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
10
Lily.
minutes. Let's come back at 10:55.
All right, thank you.
Okay, get some coffee.
Okay, I think we're gonna call it back together. Hopefully everybody got a little chance to stretch, move. Ingrid, can you hear me? Okay. Did you want to start with your sharing, or have you discussed that with Celeste and Hannah?
It doesn't matter. What Celeste promised me that this would be very informal.
It is.
Because you know, when she asked me to share, my immediate response was, I don't really have anything to share yet. But you know, she kind of wanted me to talk about the whole process and how I kind of arrived at the project that I was going to do, and have been matching it up to the modules and things like that. So I'm happy to do that, or if you want Hannah to go first, it doesn't make a difference to me.
Hannah, does it matter to you?
Nope, it doesn't matter to me either. So,
okay.
Ingrid, you want to just go for it?
We'll kick off once we get the group back. Don't do it yet. We'll get sure everybody's back. And did anyone want to lead a stretch also just before we get going? What I'm thinking is I'm not real confident in my breakout room and getting you into groups. So we'll spend the next time, we'll do a little stretch. I don't know if Shayna's willing, or if Ingrid wanted to do that also to kick things off. I know you've been working on yoga.
I have, but it's not as conducive to this environment.
One thing. Okay, fair enough. We can get a little stretch, and then we'll go to Ingrid and then to Hannah, just to do a little informal sharing, talk about their projects or the process they've been going through, which means we may not have our team building time, if that's okay with everybody. I can try it, but I'm not even positive about teams at the moment. So, not that I'm not paying attention, just not usually driving this one. So, Shayna, are you willing to stretch us?
Yeah. If folks are up for something kind of silly and goofy, sure.
Why not?
And it helps. So those of you that are hiding with your cameras off, if you want to turn them back on, we're going to do something kind of fun and oh, puppy.
Oh, no way, a Labrador.
Oh, totally got sidetracked.
Just beautiful. He's stretching too.
Yeah, so if you're chewing and stuff and you're comfortable, if you can, you know, scoot back a little bit, stand up. Does everybody know head, shoulders, knees, and toes?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're gonna do head, shoulders, knees, and toes as a group. Yep, I do this with all adults all the time. So
it's kind of silly when you're alone in the room. I haven't done this.
If you have a neighbor, then that's quite all right. They won't mind. They can get up and move too. Everybody needs to move during the day. So, and you can help me along. Are you guys ready?
Ready? Is everybody ready?
Okay. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. So, ready one more time? You can be a little louder so I can hear you.
You want us to sing?
I really don't have a singing voice, so this it helps to have a crew. Okay, ready?
Everybody sing.
Everybody together. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. Nicole, you can join there and in. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Knees and toes. Nice job.
That one was for Celeste when she goes back to review the recording.
Hey.
Thank you. Shayna, that's wonderful. Thanks for leading us.
You're welcome. I could have done the Cupid Shuffle. Ask Ingrid. We did that with our whole staff last week. So again, goofy things that make people laugh and move is all we're about right now.
Getting myself adjusted here. All right. Did we get just about everybody back? Jemmy and Kristen and Leland, are you here? We'll assume they're on their way back anyways. Okay. Ingrid, so you had a conversation with Celeste and you're willing to kind of talk about the whole process you've been going through. You're also really high up there in the ladder as far as having topics checked off. I've been working hard at this and getting your yoga certification at the same time.
Indeed, I have.
All right.
See the gray hair? It's proof.
Oh. You can do that.
Okay, should I start?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think everybody at this point knows that I chose to focus my PDLC project on evaluation. And the reason that I decided to do that was kind of multifaceted. When our executive director approached me and asked me to think about doing PDLC, you know, obviously I was thinking about, okay, well, what's going to fit as a project? And, you know, I wanted to choose something that was going to meet the criteria, but I didn't want to be doing work just for the sake of doing work. I really wanted to take time to identify something that was going to meet a need in the office. If I was going to be investing this time, it felt like it was really important for me to be investing the time towards something that I would also be working on here at the same time. And at the same time that I was thinking that through, we were also working on plans of work in Orange County. And we've had a lot of staff transition in Orange over the past year and a half. So there was a large percentage of our staff who had never done plans of work before. It really was a new process to many of us, and myself included. So I had kind of been working through the plan of work process, and you know, part of me wishes PDLC came 6 months ago, because boy, it would have positioned me really nicely for that. But you know, I stumbled my way through my plan of work and you know, pulled it together based on previous resources from people who had sat in the seat before me, or a seat that was similar to this one before me, and really kind of, you know, went back to some of our basic needs assessments and objectives and whatnot. And it was, I had to really formulate a plan of work that was going to fit this position that I'm in now, which was a new position for our county. There wasn't a job exactly like this one until I came in, because we kind of shifted and moved all of our staff as we were transitioning to create our new team. So, you know, in looking at that plan of work, my primary objectives in my role are club management and volunteer oversight. And in Orange County, we have a fairly significantly sized 4-H membership. It's one of the bigger counties in New York. So there's a lot of pieces that have to happen in kind of looking at volunteer and club management. And right off the bat, you know, obviously questions that I started asking myself were objective-based questions. What are the things that are important for us to accomplish? What's important for my role, you know, in the department in terms of supporting clubs, in terms of supporting youth development, and in terms of supporting volunteers, particularly leaders. Although our volunteers aren't all leaders, you know, some of them come in the form of evaluators or resource educators who are coming in and you know, teaching a particular skill or a project or you know, whatnot, or supporting things behind the scenes. So our volunteer force also is kind of different layers of volunteerism. They're not all just club leaders. So, you know, I really started looking at objectives, and it became evident to me as we were building our objectives that we really don't have formal evaluation tools in place in Orange County. You know, we do a lot of qualitative, like, did you enjoy that workshop, or what was your favorite part? You know, we have a lot of those little sheets, you know, where you kind of circle the happy face or the, you know, it wasn't quite as, you know, fun as I wanted it to be, kind of feedback kind of thing. But we didn't have anything that was formal. And in building my objectives, I was really looking at, based on need, the work out of the Search Institute on the 40 developmental assets. And I was looking at National 4-H's growth in the 8 developmental characteristics that we're really looking at, you know, as we're cultivating our 4-Hers. So that kind of became the crux of, this is what my program overall is working towards. And it I had to ask myself, okay, now how am I going to measure this? How am I going to determine whether or not we're hitting these goals? So I built these objectives of things that I wanted to be making sure that our program was getting towards, but I went into that plan of work knowing that we did not have a formal protocol for really truly evaluating any of those things. So one of my key growth development identifiers in my plan of work was really building this evaluation protocol. So along comes PDLC, and look, it's a marriage made in heaven. They fit so well together. So I was glad because PDLC sort of gave me the impetus to maybe move that evaluation tool forward a little bit more. I had kind of put it in my second year of my plan of work, but this made me sort of think about prioritizing it a little bit more. And it's interesting because I did go to the state plan of work originally when I was building my plan of work in the county. So it was kind of great to revisit that in one of the modules because I'd already been there. But I don't know that when I built my plan of work, I read through the state plan of work, but I don't know that I looked at how they synthesized together as carefully as I did when I was thinking about it for PDLC. So it was really good to kind of go back there and do that review. And it was affirming for me because it did say to me, yeah, you really hit the mark when, you know, you developed that plan of work, and you're right where you need to be in terms of the state plan of work and moving that work forward. So I felt like there was a really good synthesis there. So again, affirming, which is nice, right? Because you're putting in all this time and effort, and sometimes you don't really know if you're on the right track, and then all of a sudden you kind of go back to review some work and think about it and say, oh yeah, I got it, I was there.
Do you want to share your screen? Did you want to share your screen? Or
I don't have anything to share on a screen, unfortunately. I don't have any written stuff yet. And my plan of work is like 14 pages long, so it's long. But then, you know, I started thinking about this evaluation protocol, and obviously there's a lot of stuff out there. I don't want to start from scratch because there's no need. I mean, the 40 developmental assets out of the Search Institute is all research-based. There's tons of work that's already gone into that. So I decided I was going to start with the organizations that I know are already doing some research-based evaluations on these things, and then kind of synthesize that to make my own evaluative tool. So where I am so far in that process is I've gone to the Search Institute and I've tried to pull down the batteries to measure the 8 key developmental assets that I'm looking at in Orange County. And here's the first roadblock. For the Search Institute, you have to pay for those evaluation batteries, and they're very expensive. It's like $400 to get a set number of copies of it, and it's, you know, I mean, you can't buy just one, unfortunately. But the nice thing is they do have some samples on their website, and their samples include pieces of the actual evaluation. So I was able to pull samples down and synthesize a few pieces together that get me, I think, enough of what I need out of Search Institute. Now, obviously, I don't have their qualitative data measurement tools because I don't have a complete piece out of Search Institute, and I don't have the funding to buy that. But that's okay. It was the starting place, and I don't think I need to go to the depth that Search Institute's going, because this is not research-based. This is qualitative, not quantitative, for our county.
Yep.
And then the other place that I visited was the 4-H Common Measures. Now, I don't know if any of you have any familiarity with the Common Measures, but I looked at the Common Measures about 5 years ago, and quite frankly, I wanted to throw up because they were just awful. Like, way overdone, way more than you ever need to dig into. Some of the questions weren't even clearly worded. I mean, it just was ridiculous. And I remember when we looked at it 5 or 6 years ago, considering using it here in the county, across the board, our team said, no way, this does not fit our needs at all. Well, there's a whole national group that's also been saying that, because there's a total rewrite and revision that's being done right now for the 4-H Common Measures. So I decided, okay, it's probably time to revisit common measures since they have been really digging into it and reworking it. And the common measure tools that they have for use right now are quite good. I would recommend them with a very different tact at this point. And there are common measures specifically for STEM. There are common measure tools specifically for emotional development. So there really are some nice tools, and they're a lot more user-friendly. They're condensed significantly. There are like 2 or 3 pages of questions instead of like 20 pages of questions. So much better. But it's still bigger than I want. And like, I don't need a whole battery looking just at STEM. You know, I have my 8 or 10 objectives that I'm working on from a club standpoint, and I really want to be able to measure just those kinds of things. So I'm looking at, and I have another tool that was from a research project I found through, actually it was around some state fair work. I found through the Journal of Extension, a research project that had been done, maybe out of Oklahoma, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember which university it was, but I reached out to that team of researchers who had done that work about 10 or 11 years ago, and I was able to find the lead educator on that project, and she shared her evaluation tool with me. So I have those 3 things that I'm kind of bringing together and pulling out pieces that I need and matching them back up to the objectives that are built into my plan of work. And that's where I'm going to go in creating my evaluative tool. And Celeste was awesome. She spent an hour and a half online the other day just teaching me how to use Qualtrics. And based on what she showed me, I haven't done it yet, but it looks super easy. I feel totally confident in being able to create a survey tool based on what I have and now based on my limited knowledge of Qualtrics. So that's kind of where I am. That's my update.
That's fantastic, Ingrid. Thanks for sharing.
Does anyone have any questions?
Questions or thoughts for Ingrid, maybe?
If anybody else has any great evaluative tools that they're using in their county, I'd love to take a look at them. Maybe copy a question or 2.
Yeah. Anybody thinking about other tools that they've used that might be handy for Ingrid?
This is Michelle. I've got a pretty decent basic survey that our group developed with the help of the Survey Research Institute.
Wow.
I can send that out to you. It's still a little formal, but it covers the good basics, and it has the advantage of being translated into Spanish already. So.
Oh, awesome.
Great.
I would love to see that, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put it in Box. Does that work, or would you like me to send it to you directly?
I can find it in Box. That's okay.
I'll just pop it up on there then.
Okay.
It's not awesome. It's only okay, but it's a decent okay.
Hey, looking at everything, I think just having a lot of resources to pull from sort of helps with being able to synthesize it all.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. Any other evaluation thoughts that might help Ingrid? Tools or? I really like the fact that you're doing all this exploring and collecting and finding your fit, because I think sometimes there's a lot of resources out there, and being able to determine what's going to help for Orange County for each development's really a big help there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sounds like some great progress going on.
I have a quick question.
Absolutely, Nicole.
Although I don't know how relevant it is, have you found a good method for kind of collating and assessing an interview as an evaluation? Like if you're conducting to get that quality information, like have you found a good way that works for you?
Is that something you're exploring? Say that again, Ingrid.
Is Nicole addressing that question to me or to you?
Yeah, or everyone. You specifically, but anyone.
Ingrid.
Okay. I mean, we've done focus groups in the past, Nicole, that were interview based, and you know, where I guess I get hung up is a little bit on the fact that you use the word good. Is there a good way to synthesize that data? You know, I'm going to tell you what I did, and maybe it was a little bit old school, when I was looking at synthesizing interview data, I went to Excel and I plugged every response into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I kind of looked at overall characteristics like, is this addressing project development work? Is this addressing social emotional development? Is this addressing, you know, a particular aspect of a club function or whatnot? And I sort of coded them all out in that respect using a PowerPoint spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. And then like I grouped them. And that was how I did my data collection based on interview. I don't know if that was the most efficient way, but it worked for me. I don't know if anybody else has any insight.
I can add a little bit. Anybody else have ways that they've collected interview information and coordinated that or collated that? I would just add that at Qualtrics, setting up a type of collector for those if you're doing focus groups or even verbal interviews and having that right up. Celeste has kind of guided us in that, and we do a lot of it, having a few set questions. It doesn't so much do to the degree that Ingrid has as far as sorting through these kind of this kind of answer. But it's a great way. It does take all that information, all the responses, and puts that into a big spreadsheet. So I don't know if that's how you got your spreadsheet, Ingrid, if you used Qualtrics. Well, maybe not because you're kind of new to that.
I'm new to Qualtrics, so I went old school.
Yeah,
and keep in mind too, our focus group numbers when we did them were pretty manageable. I think we only had 25 or 30 respondents when we did focus groups. So it wasn't like a tremendous amount of data. If we had 100 or 200, I'm not sure that would have worked because you get a lot of information in a 30-minute focus group.
Sure. But Qualtrics really can be that tool to, even if you've got paper copies, if you're out in the field doing a presentation collecting paper copies because it's not practical, or have people do it on their phones, you can, I've just found it really useful to kind of get that each question collated and rated, or collecting those comments all in one place.
Thank you. That's really helpful from both of you. I do a lot of follow-up phone calls and specific like intervals of time and assessing impact over time through phone calls and a little bit of face-to-face, but mostly phone calls. That's really helpful. Thank you.
How do you do it now, Nicole?
Like Ingrid does, but I think setting up exactly what you said, like a little bit of what Ingrid said about like mark-offs for specific areas, and then putting it in Qualtrics and then having Qualtrics do the like sorting. That sounds like that would be good.
Yeah, I found that really useful. And when we first started doing it, I said, I don't think I can talk to people and type their responses in, but I found it was a lot easier to kind of get the keywords in and
that's the hard part.
Yeah,
an wasn't so bad. Interview where you're like typing away. It's really
yeah, I know. I like to really focus on the let's talk and work this out, and I want to listen, but it wasn't so bad. Also getting down some responses. Any other ideas with that? Collecting those responses, especially if you're doing it over time, I think it's a way to look at responses and how they change.
I've used with my groups, we've done focus groups, but we record all of the focus group responses. If we can, we have them transcribed, which isn't as expensive as you'd think. It's usually like $100 for an hour session where you can get a bunch of people together. It's very cost effective because it takes forever for a non-transcriptionist to do that kind of thing. And then the researchers go through with coding software, and it's something that's available through Cornell. You can ask Man Library and they'll hook you up with it. But that software allows the reviewer to take that transcript and then take little clips of the sentences and put a tag on it. Say like, oh, all these responses are about, the content, and all these other responses, those are complaints. And you can kind of start to cluster them that way. And that's been helpful when we do bigger things where you're over that 20, 25 person mark, and it gets really painful to try to process them.
Sorts out the temperature in the room and the bad food.
Yeah, and sometimes I've stopped asking about those. One of my coworkers gave me the very wise advice that don't ask a question that you're not prepared to make a change for. So don't ask them about your training space if you can't fix the training space.
Good point.
You know, if you only have $15 and they're going to have cookies and coffee, then don't ask them whether they're happy with it, because
they have enough, right?
You can't do anything about it. And once I got over that, I was like, that's helpful. So I stopped asking.
Still comes up.
It still comes up, but it did sort a bunch of that out to be like, you know what, I can't change it. I can't bring you Starbucks. So
right. All right. Any other comments? How about a round of applause for Ingrid?
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. And it's not so painful, right? Just talking through what you've gone through, what you've learned, some of those resources, how you've picked up things. So really appreciate you sharing. Great. Okay, we're gonna switch gears now to Hannah.
Sure. I feel like Ingrid had a whole flow and direction of what she was sharing, and I might be a little more disjointed here, but that's okay.
It's all informal. It's just sharing and inspiring a couple more people to do this next week also.
Excellent.
And you're welcome to share your screen if you want. I'm not sharing at the moment, so it's all yours.
Okay.
If you'd like to do that, or just chat us through.
Yeah, why don't I just kind of get everyone oriented to start. And yeah, first of all, my small group, pardon my small group here in my office with me, it's been really, really helpful to have that weekly structure to talk through things and to just hear from each other where we're at. And yeah, so shout out to Nicole and Jemmy and Carrie, because it's been, even when we don't necessarily feel like we're accomplishing much, it's been just really great to see the procession of our thinking from week to week. So, and I think I can see the progress more clearly in other people than in myself. But for
that's a good reminder.
Yeah. For my own stuff, I'm really enjoying the structure of the PDLC program. I'm realizing that for our extension work, our programming has largely been driven by our research programming, which makes sense in a lot of ways. I am an extension associate based here on campus, but I work with a lot of researchers. So I've largely been immersed in more of the we need to figure out our research questions and get funding for that. And then the extension is an important part of it. But so I don't want to give the impression that it's an afterthought, but it's kind of like the last step after we have new research findings, then that informs our extension programming. And for years, I've seen the need that we really need to take a step back and think about who is accessing our information, what's missing, how can we more effectively get our programming and resources out there so that people can use them. And I think I've shared previously that we've been really reactive, and we've done a lot of work in New York City and Buffalo where our research efforts have been, and we respond effectively to inquiries that come to us. So when we know that there's a need, we're responding to that need, and I think we're doing so pretty well. But then there's a lot of counties in the state where we don't have active partnerships with county associations, and I'm not sure who's accessing our website. And if I'm not getting, just one-on-one inquiries from people, I'm not exactly clear on what's happening and who's aware of what's on our website or what we offer and who is just totally in the dark. So strengthening those campus county connections is the goal of this project, and also just for my job and my program currently. There's some uncertainty about the future of our program, and so I feel like either way, this will strengthen us. And if our program might have a limited life cycle, then all the better that we get resources pushed out there as effectively as we can. So yeah, so that's all kind of big. And so a big part of what I've been trying to do through this program and just in general in the spring semester is to try to wrangle these kind of big lofty goals, kind of like the whole program goal, not just a project goal, into something that's a manageable project that I can tackle with bite-sized chunks. And one thing that I did want to share, which is not a screen share, but it's a wall share. I met with Celeste to kind of sort through this a little bit and trying to just brainstorm how to, where do overall program objectives fit with PDLC project objectives versus statewide program objectives, and just trying to see how all of that aligns. And she suggested an exercise where I just do like a brain dump of putting tangible bits onto Post-it notes, and to just spend whatever time I needed. I think she suggested even an hour, and aiming for 100 Post-its to just get everything out there, and then you can kind of work with those pieces and move them around. So I'm going to pick up my stick camera here and just show you my wall of Post-its here.
Oh, love it.
So I don't expect you to be able to read anything there.
That's great.
And nothing is really in any sort of order yet. I'm working on that. You know, it's everything from like overall program goals and improving some team collaboration stuff, which I've brought up in previous meetings, to, you know, outputs like web resources and county specific resources. And then, you know, on to like shorter and longer term outcomes of, you know, we want to be building healthier soils and improving gardeners' health and, you know, having people grow healthy, nutritious foods. But yeah, so again, it hasn't coalesced into any sort of order yet, but I just wanted to share that because I know that at least a few of you have shared that you've felt similarly overwhelmed with like wading through layers of objectives and outcomes and thinking about how stuff might fit together. So that suggestion from Celeste is really helpful just in like breaking it into pieces. And then I'm hoping that the pieces will continue to come together in more of an order. So yeah, so that's kind of the brainstorming process. And I mentioned a little earlier that I've started to draft an implementation plan. And again, I didn't see a template that really seemed to get at exactly what I wanted. So I was just kind of playing around with creating one of my own. I guess I can share my screen.
Sure.
Let's see.
I see it. You can see your Excel file.
You can see the Excel file. Okay. All right. Good. Okay, and you can still see the Excel file. It's showing up a little differently on here, but as long as...
Looks good.
Yeah, so, okay, and so if I scroll around, like if I go down to the bottom here.
It's scrolling, yep.
Okay, so, you know, for example, so like overall tasks, networking with county educators to brainstorm.
Hannah, are these did these come from the Post-its? Or these are more tasky things?
Some of them overlap with the Post-its.
Okay.
Yeah, but so what I'm trying to do is break like a bigger task, like network with county educators, into tangible action steps so that I will actually get it done rather than getting stuck in a loop of, oh, this feels bigger than I can accomplish in, you know, random 1 hour bits of time that I end up having.
Right.
So,
good.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of fine tuning a little bit about what columns, what headings I need in order to keep track of things for this type of project.
Mm-hmm.
I know the last meeting Celeste showed a plan that was more like detail focused, like thinking about things like refreshments and meeting space, and that's not really where I'm at.
You're
this project. Yeah. It's more, you know, what do I need to do, making sure that it's broken down into bits. Who am I working with, or who do I at least need to be talking to while I'm accomplishing certain parts?
Mm-hmm.
And then the like, what's my timeline look like here? Where am I at in the process? And then just keeping track of notes about it. So, yeah, again, this is kind of what I came up with for this type of project, looking at some examples of implementation plans. But if anyone has feedback on like columns that are clearly missing, or if there's some resource out there that is getting at this type of information, but in a more easy to use format, like, yeah, I sort of just
Hannah,
something that made sense. Yep.
So I don't know, Celeste, I know it's Ingrid and I have had to share implementation plans with our Orange County partners, and we've used the turning ideas into great, whatever the CCE handbook is, and so
great programs.
Yeah, there's the blank implementation sheet. We have a Word document of it, and so it's a lot of the things do kind of overlap with your tasks, but it's one that is in like it's a Cornell handbook. I have I created a blank copy of it that kind of modified some stuff, but it talks about audience, timeline, how you were going to evaluate it, all those things, and it has these similar columns to it. So I don't know if Celeste, if we could put that on Box or something, but it's a Cornell developed or piece of a Cornell developed tool to take you through plan of work and stuff. If I'm not
Awesome.
mistaken.
Yeah, we can definitely make sure that's not linked now in the Moodle. Is that right?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay,
I just took
I'll
off,
look at that.
like, I just took off that one Word document. I think probably Ingrid and I have a blank one. We could just share it. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to share it to Celeste or Kim, and you guys can put it on.
Sure, send it, and then we can make sure there's a link to that Turning Good Ideas. If that might have been something we've pulled down recently, though.
Yeah, I think it was the last time updated was years ago, but it just happened to be the sheet we were kind of guided to use, but it does fall into these kind of categories that you're looking at, Hannah.
Thank you, Shayna. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, because I'm realizing too that, again, for our research, we've had a lot of structure. For our extension, I've been kind of winging it. I was new to this position as a new extension associate, and at one point I was working with some other extension folks so there was a little bit of mentoring early on, but a lot of this I've been kind of figuring out as I go. And yeah, this is my first experience fitting the extension side of things into a plan of work and thinking about it in these particular frameworks, which seems like I'm looking back, like, how did I get through this for a decade without having done some of this formally? So I'm, I feel a little bit like I'm airing the holes in our programming here, but like, yeah, we've done good things, but this is definitely going to provide some structures to create improvements in some areas that need it. So it's been really useful.
Yeah, hopefully being familiar with these tools is making you making it all more efficient and more practical, a little bit easier to think through those steps. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've had logic models for our overall research and extension combined programming, but it's the extension side specifically has been due for some attention and resources. So.
And this breaks it down. Everybody has their own way of doing it for sure, but it's nice to be able to plug things in, have that tool right there for you. Yeah. Are there other observations from others to share with Hannah? Part of the sharing is, yes, that we're all learning from each other. So thoughts come to mind, tools come to mind. Really appreciate Shayna looking into the other pieces. And we did talk about this implementation plan a little bit earlier also. Any other thoughts?
I have a thought. It's something I've noticed just the last few weeks. So because I'm down an educator right now and I'm by myself, I've been everybody has been awesome, especially in the organization, trying to help me. So something that I thought, it's funny to reflect about, but everybody, when they ask me, what can I do to help you? I'm thinking in my head, it's going to take more time to explain to you what I want you to do than me just doing it myself sometimes. But if we have these program models already in place, like what you just developed and drawn out, I could just hand somebody something to keep working down my check boxes. And I think, kind of coming from that working, down perspective, it saves so much in the long run. So had I had these things done for these programs, people actually could be helping me right now. So I think that getting them in place for the future, even if it is more time consuming initially, even having them for next year's programs, the ones that we're doing repetitively, it would save me so much time.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have students here too, and we quite often have a lot of turnover. I mean, they'll stay as long as they're here usually. But yes, it's a whole new thing. Oh, how do I update the website and having those? So I think writing the implementation plans, that's something I thought of when we were talking earlier. Write them so somebody else can follow them. Yeah, that's a good point. Great. Okay, Hannah, back to you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought it was a good opportunity for discussion. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was at a good pausing point, and yeah, it's definitely helpful to hear from others. And
yeah, jump in, ask questions, watch and chat too. Okay. So anything, you've got more, Hannah, or?
I think I'm good to pause. It's time for someone else to jump in. Yeah,
all right.
It's kind of where I'm at. Just, yeah, again, I'm finding it helpful to fill in pieces, like filling in the draft plan of work, and it can change and it's not perfect, but I had just had pages and pages of my own notes and was starting to just get overwhelmed with keeping track of all the content. So kind of thinking about what I'm going to need for the final pieces. And I can still have notes behind the scenes, but to just start plugging it in has kind of simplified it a little bit in my mind.
Oh, good.
Good, yeah.
Anything that helps us sleep better at night. All those pieces jumbled together. Is there anyone else who would like to share today? Any thoughts about their project or progress they've made? Or willing to share next time we meet? Mary Kate, you look like you're moving forward to volunteer.
Well,
No?
I just wanted to, before I volunteered, I wanted to be sure I could make the next call.
Oh, okay, I see.
I've got a conflict, so I cannot.
All right.
Here, but
Well, we'll let you all kind of check your calendars and think about what you might share with the group, because I think that's a important part. We're not going to split into teams, as I said, but I think Hannah kind of kicked it off to talk about their small groups. If we could do maybe a little bit of reflection or sharing on maybe some benefits of the small groups or some aha moments that have come out of working with your team. This is open to everyone if you want to do some verbal sharing and just let us know how the teams are going and kind of maybe something that has triggered your mind and helped to work along and make progress. Any thoughts about small groups? Are they working for you?
Kim, I think maybe I jumped the gun a little bit when I talked about my brainstorming this morning, but that's definitely come out of our small group work. I mean, it's evident that we all have the same needs in all of these counties across the state. And, you know, like there's this wonderful resource right at our fingertips, and we forget to take the time to like tap into it. Because if we were all sharing this work in a more effective way, just think about how much easier all of our jobs would be.
Right.
So I really think as a system, we need to be like thinking about what can we be doing together to be helping all of us.
Yep, I think that's an important message. We can put it on the platter, we can put it on the website, but I think it takes brains to make that connection. I think part of this process also is you're getting really clear about what kind of needs you have as you think kind of to launch that project. All of you have gone through that process. What am I going to focus on? What are my big needs? How am I going to make it happen? And how can I do all of this? So reaching out and having colleagues to bounce ideas off, I think is really a great thing.
And it's so easy to get lost in your silo of your own individual county. You know, I mean, it's coming at you 100 miles an hour every single day. You know, it's hard sometimes to take a step outside of that and recognize that there are 40 plus other people feeling exactly the same way that you are. Now, what do we do together to help one another?
Right. And you're lucky to have that district that has a history of pulling together, focused on 4-H youth development, and you can kind of share those resources. And it's not an overwhelming statewide group, it's a smaller group. So I think any opportunity to do that also, in addition to your small groups, but not everybody has that. Do other people have kind of natural groups that come together? Like the 4-H district educators, so kind of a regional group of 4-H educators.
Yeah, I mean, for Eat Smart New York, we're in regions, and so there's only 10 or 11 of us across the state, so we do meet monthly and go through stuff. So we're constantly talking and sharing, and doing that. So it is very helpful to brainstorm and just kind of say, oh, you're doing that, why aren't we doing that, or what resources? And I've actually used some of the with the RFP hopefully coming out soon, some of the data resources and stuff that we've you heard about, you know, when you did orientation long ago, but have not necessarily looked at into that capacity now and shared that. So kind of that working out loud concept, I have found that to be really kind of in my face on a regular basis, and saying, this isn't mine to keep, it's not ours as a region, and really emphasizing that with our whole team to kind of, it's for the greater good of the mission of the project.
Absolutely. Great, that's a wonderful example. All right. Any other comments or notes about your small groups, shout outs? All right. I know everybody wants to get back to working at the Moodle projects, and we'll let you do that. We've extended that date to the 21st. So we'll be checking off those lists and packing little boxes out to all of you who have accomplished it. So we look forward to putting all those together and putting some just little prizes and whatnot to support your work and keep you going. We're almost there. We're getting there. Timeline is great. I think you're welcome to join up with your small groups if you want to do that after this. But anything else for the good of the order? Janice is back. I know some of you have been disconnecting your video because it does sometimes make things choppy. So, anything else? Sounds like, as I said, as we were looking over we kind of look at an activity chart that says here's how everybody's progressing through, and it looks like there's a lot of checks, and we're on the other side of the mountain. So you got to know we're on the downhill swing. It's all coming together. If you do have questions, please reach out to either one of us. Feel free to do that, especially specific questions or even general questions about how am I going to get this all done. And talk to your small groups as you have been. So, any other thoughts?
I just have one question, Kim.
Yes, please.
So, thinking ahead to the in-person presentations, could you just clarify again who the audience will be for that and who will be invited to watch us?
Sure. So what we've done in the past, and I think this is the way it'll play out on the day when you do your presentations. There's usually a time limit. I want to say there's a 10-minute time limit for presentation, but we'll get that to you specifically. So think about short time. Quite often there's slides or some screen sharing. You're actually in front of a room. With this size group, we've actually split into 3 different rooms in the past, except for the time you all presented in front of the 60 or 70 executive directors and extension administration. That was a big one and very short presentation. So now what we've come to is I believe it's still going to be the 3 different rooms. So kind of group you by topic, and you'll have a little schedule. So 10 minutes and then time for question and answer. So who we've invited here are members from Extension Administration. We invite people who are connected to your work, such as staff in the State 4-H office. We may invite people from the departments, our campus friends and colleagues who tie into the kind of things you're doing with your work. Come on in, see these wonderful program development leadership people in our system. Here's some of the projects they're doing. Tap into, Lori Brewer, and depends on what your topic is. There may be some other area ag team members involved, or Peter Landry, Craig Trowbridge. So we put the invitation out there, and we try to split up the audience. So not a big audience. We've been in one of the smaller rooms in ILR in the past, so there might be 15, 20 people there. One of us will be in the room also. Celeste would be in one, I would be in another, and then we usually recruit someone to host the third, and we kind of facilitate that. And you can decide on order, but it's really a great piece, and there is a lot of question and answer and discussion at the end. And remember, it's kind of a mix of here's what we learned, and also tell about your projects and how you've progressed with that, or what it's led to. And you may be at different stages, so it's perfectly fine that there's lots of different types of presentations depending on what you took on and how far you got. So
that would be my question, because I'm finding this so useful and helpful in so many ways, but I'm a bit nervous because I don't see myself having a tangible product to share.
Right. I think that's perfectly fine. As I said, we've had that every year where there's just different things that you've all come into this with something in your mind. Here's what I want to get accomplished, and you're going to accomplish what you want to get accomplished, right, Nicole? It's just not going to be an end product yet, but it might be something that gets you ready to start a program. So I think that's where the discussion is really important. Really being clear up front. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I've accomplished. Here's my next steps, and having that discussion, opening up to the group for ideas or questions. Here's how I'm thinking through the next steps, maybe, if you feel like it's not something that's right there. But I want you to feel comfortable with that. I think that's perfectly fine, Nicole. And it's Oh, should I answer and pretend I'm her? Hear the phone ringing? I won't do that. But
Also,
yeah,
Kim?
and we can talk through that, your presentation ideas also as we get closer to that. Especially
Kim,
if
do you
you're
know
feeling a
when you
little.
guys are, when we're going to be doing the presentations? Like what time during which day? Because I might be able to make it like the morning of the first day and just have to leave around like 2 or something. But were you planning them in the afternoon of the next day?
I'm not sure we've gotten that far, Kristen, but we can definitely, let's consider that. I don't think we've asked about conflicts for those. Well, maybe we did a while back, but I think that would be good to know if there are conflicts for the days that are set. I don't even have the days on the top of my,
April 30th, yeah, April 30th and May 1st. April 30th is the Tuesday and Wednesday. So, because I have an event that evening, like a graduation for a program.
We've done it a little different each year. I think we've done it more the afternoon. We usually have some time kind of pulling things together. So you said after 2 on the 30th?
Yeah, I'll probably have to leave at 2 on the 30th.
Oh, you have to leave on 2. Leave at 2.
Or even like 1 o'clock. But I could just webinar. It might be easy just to do a webinar. But call it, or I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I just wondering.
Okay. Yeah, is Kristen the only one with a conflict those 2 days? Anybody else on that has a conflict? Okay. Yeah, we'll consider that. So you're there on April 30th, is that right?
Maybe, ideally, if I can work it.
Okay. All right. Or we could try the Zoom thing. We're open to technology, believe it or not.
Yeah.
There is some value, obviously, getting together and celebrating the culmination of the project together and having people come in. But we'll definitely work something out for you, Kristen. All right. Any other questions?
Kim, I have a question.
Sure.
And I may have missed this in a previous webinar, but what are the expectations for participation in the systems conference that's coming up?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I said, what are the expectations for participation in the systems conference that's coming up?
You mean for this year?
Yeah.
We're just encouraging you all. Well, some of you are, so I know Hannah's presenting. There are other presenters. We're just encouraging people to register, and if there's things, of value to you for the system conference, we have 420 people registered. I think we told you right in the beginning. So no specific expectations, just that this is an invitation to staff to really kind of connect with the system. Part of our focus is that campus county connection, so we've got a lot of program presentations, and some of them may be of interest to you. There's also all kinds of presentations in the different operations, like offered by IT, offered by finance. So take a look at the list that's there. The system conference is at conferences.cce.cornell.edu. So like our public page with conferences at the front. There'll be more the brochures there, so you can list and the link to the event registration, and we'll be populating that more and more, populating that. It's actually in Moodle. You may have noticed that in staff learning. So there'll be more information put up there once we get people registered, and then we'll be able to the topics, the links to the actual presentations as we get really close into April, links to the Zoom presentations, and also any resources, any things to do ahead of time, or slides would all be posted if you haven't seen that in the past. It'll be pretty similar to the layout from last year. So if you're curious, 2018 is also listed on staff learning. Did I answer your question at all?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I know you've got a lot to get onto. Really appreciate you all being involved and engaging today. We'll be looking for some volunteers, 2 or 3 who want to share where they are with their projects next time we meet. But until then, do feel free to reach out if you need anything. And thank you especially to Ingrid and Hannah for sharing your wares. What's that, Ingrid?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, okay. I've got screens popping up here. I'm not sure if I'm going to throw something off, so I'm not pushing them. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.